All right, everyone. Welcome to this week's weekly software workshop. We're going to go ahead and give everybody about a minute here to get into the attendees list here and get signed in. So just give us about one more minute here and we'll go ahead and get started with our software workshop today. All right, it does look like the attendee list has started to slow down, so we'll just go ahead and get started here. Welcome to this week's weekly software workshop. I just wanted to let you all know, for those of you who have not been here before, that we do make it so that you can unmute yourself and ask questions as they come up. This workshop is, and this webinar is more
Formal?
informal. I was trying to think of, gonna say laid back. I guess informal is a better word for it. It's more informal, a little bit easier as far as our Tuesday webinar goes. It's more, informational. This one is more back and forth. We like to have you ask questions and get your questions answered. So please feel free to unmute and ask questions as we go. With that in mind, if I have not talked to you before, my name is Mason Wells. I'm the manager of customer success here at UtrechtBiz. Say that 5 times fast. And that is my title. So that is who I am here. I run these every week. If you have any questions, my contact information is going to be at the end of this presentation. So you'll be able to get that there. Today's topic is using the gross pay calculator for P&D. Okay, so the line haul gross pay calculator is currently in the works. For those of you who know line haul is a whole nother beast as far as paying people. So we are in the process of putting that together, so that should be coming out shortly. But today is the P&D gross pay calculator, which I hope for a lot of you will be able to shave hours off of doing your payroll. And then the next month or so here are some upcoming topics. So if you are wanting to attend, we've got the monthly recap next week where we're going to go over the scheduler and this gross pay calculator. And then we're going to start going over things like I can't talk today, Ken. I don't know what it is. But utilizing the calculators that are in our system, those are really great to use to be able to calculate all different types of things, such as your capacity and what would taking one truck off the road, what would that do for your operation, things of that nature. So those calculators are really great and are in there for you to use. Using our revenue and expenses feature, that is essentially creating a P&L in our system, but it's a more robust P&L tool. And then managing your timekeeping records. This is super important. We've actually talked about this a lot recently with a lot of payroll audits that are coming out. So having your own timekeeper and making sure those records are accurate and making sure they're clocking in and out the terminal is a very big deal. Okay, so we're going to be going over that coming towards the middle to end, I guess it'd be the middle of next month. And again, this is my contact information. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions with software, all of our software has been built around your suggestions and your feedback. So we would be more than happy to have that from you. Okay. So with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and log into the BOSS system. Okay, so the BOSS system is, for those of you who are not aware, is the business operations support system. So as the name suggests, it is here to support you in your business, especially for things like HR, employee management, vehicle management, your safety program. Basically, if it's HR related, it's probably in here. We have added some new things. This map is now here. You can see the last scan of all of your drivers. So that is something that's fairly new. you can see here, and some more information here as far as today's information. This is all coming from the FedEx API. Okay, so just wanted to general housekeeping, give you an update there. And there's also something new for those of you who haven't been here before. There is a new navigation button up here. This is a tutorial to show, kind of walk you through the boss system to show you where everything is. So if you have not seen that, that is where that is as well. Today, though, we're going over the gross pay calculator. To navigate to the gross pay calculator, because it pertains to your employees, you're paying your employees, it's going to be under them. And over here on the right-hand side is the gross pay calculator, okay? So you're going to open that up. And this particular contractor has been, or had been, or is using it. So there is some information in here. There we go. This is what your dashboard will start to look like as you start putting in your gross pay history in here, okay? So, and I can show you another one of someone whose is more up to date, because theirs is, you know, more up to date as far as having actual, like, it gets put in there every week because it's one of our payroll customers. But this will show you as you start putting in this gross pay history and calculating it, it's going to start showing you for these dates. So this is a kind of a filter here. So you're going to see from 2/18 to 4/18, and you're going to see this information is all going to be this particular week ending date, okay? And anytime you see these eye icons, those are for information. So those are clickable, and you can get information. For this instance, this tells you about what this dashboard is, what the top 4 metrics are for, and what everything is kind of showing you. And it gives you kind of a rundown here of what you're looking at. So anytime you're in the system and you see those icons, those are going to be really helpful. They're actually the most helpful in things like the P&L tool that I was talking about earlier, because there's a lot of information in there, and there's a lot of there's entry, like you have to enter data in there, so it really helps you to tell you like what data needs to be put where and things of that nature too. So those eye icons, those information icons are going to be very helpful. With that in mind, this does show you this gross P&D pay per dispatch. This is what they were for this particular week ending date. Gross pay per stop, gross pay per package, and gross P&D pay. And this is going to show you over this particular grouping of dates. So it's going to show you the gross P&D pay per dispatch, and it's going to also show you a trending chart. So he is trending down for this particular time frame. And then you're also going to see that the same for all of these as well. So you're going to be able to see all of these metrics over the course of those dates. Okay. If you're logging into your boss system right now to kind of follow along with me on this, you're going to see something a little bit different. You're not going to see, if you haven't been using the gross pay calculator, you're going to be seeing nothing in there, and all of these charts are going to say there's no data. That's because this is coming directly from you running your payroll, okay? So let me show you this one, because his is a little bit more updated, okay? So this is someone that we do have a payroll service, so we do run payroll for people, where it's full service, beginning to end, your payroll is completely ran for you. You have to do nothing other than approve it. This particular contractor, we do that for, so this does get put in there for them automatically. So he gets these charts automatically once a week. And it's showing you that it is trending downward, which is really great. That's what we like to see. And you start to kind of see, as you know, they're making some changes in the operation, what those changes look like as far as the financial aspect of it. So I do know myself that they have been making some changes to, you know, sending a couple of less trucks out, and things of that nature, and that has started to make their payroll start to go down. They also got rid of a couple of jumpers that they did not need. So that is how you start to see the correlation between making changes in your operation, and how that's affecting your payroll and that bottom line. Okay, that
Can I add
is one
something,
of the big
Mason?
reasons. Yeah, absolutely.
And you could see, I mean, at one time per dispatch, he was paying his drivers $225. People pay differently. Some pay hourly, some pay per stop, some pay a day rate, and then a bonus. But what you're really worried about is what is it costing me per dispatch? And you can see at one time 225.09. That's pretty expensive. Now there might be some parts of the country where you have to pay that, but if you are, what are you getting your money's worth out of it? So you'd have to ask yourself that. Now, he has brought this down to $190.48 per dispatch. I think that is just a good accomplishment. He probably didn't do it by just cutting his drivers' wages. Probably did it by managing some productivity, because if you're paying overtime and people are milking the clock, you can easily end up at this 225.09. Or if you have a high day rate and then you just start to pay a bonus on a stop rate, that might really be very easy for them to achieve, and they might get a bonus on 40 stops per day. Once again, you might be pushing that 225 number. Okay, sorry, Mason.
Mhm. No, you're fine. And that's actually a good point too, Ken. So I can tell you this, the reason that putting in, yes, this is going to shave time off of you having to complete your payroll. Okay. Like we're going to go in and I'm going to show you how to calculate your gross pay and how it helps you run your payroll. Like that's a big deal. But once that's run, you then get all of these reports. And what Ken was pointing out and what I was trying to point out as well is that you start to see, I know for a fact that this contractor, he pays everybody by the day. Well, as of this week, he'll be paying everybody by the day. He had one hourly person, um, and he had a couple of jumpers that he did not need anymore. It's past peak. He didn't need them, so he removed the jumpers who were hourly. He's now down to just day pay, and he doesn't have any vehicles under 10,000 pounds that the drivers get into. So that is good. He can be day pay for that, and he's now starting to, as Ken said, he's making some operational changes that are affecting this number. So what he's doing, and it's absolutely correlating to this change, is he's having his BCs, instead of just sending out 18 trucks and 18 drivers on every single Monday, they're addressing and they're looking and saying, okay, I've got on average, I'm hitting anywhere between 100 stops difference on a Monday. I can send out 16 trucks instead of 18. They're starting to make those changes as far as what Ken was saying, productivity wise, and they're essentially taking a truck or two off the road instead of just sending everybody out. And that is absolutely starting to uh, uh, translate into him saving money on payroll. And it's not necessarily like, removing pay from drivers. It's just not sending them out when they're not needed to be sent out. Um, is one of his big things. He sent, I think he sent three drivers home last week, and that automatically made his payroll go down. Okay, so you can see it immediately. This is something that's great when you run it in here. You can see that immediate change, and you can see if the changes you made actually made a difference on your payroll. Because that's what we like to see. He was running probably about 47% of his revenue was going to wages. He's now down with this week, he was down to 40. So that just making those couple of changes definitely helped. And I know they're still making more changes. He's got very rural, lots of mileage routes. So, trying to get that down as far as possible to pay for that gas is where he's got to be. So this is a perfect example of why this gross pay calculator is such a great thing to use, because it's one thing to pay your people, but it's another thing to be able to see the actual changes of that payroll and how it correlates to your operational changes. Okay. So when you get in here, you'll see nothing in here unless you've been using it. You do want to make sure there are a couple of like general housekeeping things you want to make sure before you start using it to assess first. One, you want to make sure that all of your employees and how they're being paid is correct in here. Okay. So if you click on one of these, you'll be able to choose, like, most of your people, if you're not using the gross pay calculator, will be set to inactive, but you'll want to set them to active. You can choose hourly per day or salary. And you can put that rate in here and click save. You just want to make sure everybody is up to date, okay? Because that is going to be a big part of obviously running the calculator. And then another thing you want to do, when we added the auto setup tool for the work area planning for the scheduler, it brings in some of these truck numbers. You just want to make sure that all of your trucks have the correct gross weight in them and that they're in service. And the reason for that is we can correlate the driver with the truck from the FedEx API. What we're doing here, and eventually you'll see it in the gross pay calculator, what we're doing is we're going in and we're saying, has this driver at any point, even for 1 second of the day, been in a vehicle that is under 10,000 pounds? For those of you who know what happened a couple of years ago, there was a big class action lawsuit with the vehicles under 10,000 pounds. A bunch of drivers got together and started a class action lawsuit stating that they did not receive overtime for the time that they should have. I believe, Ken, it's the DOT that says that if a driver is in a vehicle under 10,000 pounds at any point for the week, they are eligible for overtime. So even if I got into a truck for 5 minutes that was in a vehicle under 10,000 pounds, I'm eligible for overtime.
That's actually the labor laws. But
labor laws,
if you're in a vehicle over 10,001 pounds, it is a DOT regulated vehicle. The DOT has an exemption to the labor law that says if you are in a DOT vehicle, then you are not subject to any wage, the standard wage and labor law. So, which means you're not at overtime over 40 hours, and it varies by state. But the minute that, as she said, the minute that an employee gets into a vehicle under 10,000 pounds, you lose that exemption for that entire pay period. So yeah, it's the DOT, you have a DOT exemption in a DOT vehicle, but that DOT exemption goes away if that employee drives a vehicle under 10,000 pounds at any time during that pay period. So, all right.
Correct. Yep. And what's really striking about that is there are a lot of people out there that they do have vehicles that are under 10,000 pounds. And we've run into a lot of issues where we've got some people that have told us that, well, my guys are paid by the day. I don't necessarily need to have them clocking in and out. Couple problems with that. We'll just go ahead and say that here. There are a couple problems with that. I believe it's in your contract that you have to, and Ken can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's in your contract that you have to have a separate timekeeping system from the FedEx scanner.
That is correct. It is a contracting standard.
It is a contract standard. So right off the bat, based on the contract, you have to have a timekeeper. But separate from that, and I've actually run into this problem with this particular contractor. He does have, I did say earlier, he doesn't have any drivers that are in vehicles under 10,000 pounds. These two vehicles are his BC's vehicles that they run around and help do cleanups and stuff like that. And they're both salary. So they're exempt from the overtime hourly snafu. Every now and then, and now we've got these BCs understanding this, every now and then they will put a driver in one of these trucks. And the hard part with that is that then they have to very, very, very closely monitor their timekeeping. Because before, for this particular contractor, he's a great case study for this. Before, they were just having their drivers clock in and out whenever they remembered to clock in and out, okay? Now, with the vehicles that are under 10,000 pounds, he had this happen last week where one of the drivers jumped in it real quick because her truck broke down. She finished off a route. Everybody was fine with it. Well, because she had forgot to clock in, forgot to clock out one day, so she was on the clock for 23 hours. And then there was another day that she forgot to clock out, so she was in, let's just put it this way, she was into overtime for 33 hours of overtime last week. Now, it got fixed, and you can edit those and fix them because she obviously was not on the clock for 23 hours. However, really keeping track of and making sure those drivers are clocking in and clocking out when they are supposed to will help. If a driver does get into a vehicle under 10,000 pounds, then you're not paying them for a bunch of overtime that they didn't actually work. This particular contractor, the VCs were telling them, well, if you can't remember to clock in and out, just clock in at home and clock, when you wake up, and clock out when you get back home. Well, I was telling them, like, look, if that driver gets into that vehicle under 10,000 pounds and you've had them clocking in and out at home all week, they could be going into overtime, because it takes some of these drivers a little bit of time to get into the terminal, but it could take them all the time that they've been into overtime could be from them driving home and driving to work. So you're paying them to drive to and from work, overtime time, not just like regular time. So they've nipped that in the bud very quickly. So they are now, I actually just had the BC text me earlier today and say that one of their drivers did get into this truck today, and they are monitoring his timekeeping very closely. So it is something that you have to be careful of. But what's really great about the gross pay calculator is if you have these gross weights in here, it will tell you when a driver got into that truck. Okay, so that was a long-winded way about saying it's a big deal, but the gross pay calculator addresses it. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll show you. If you go into gross pay history, we've got all of his, from this date to this date, all of his gross pays, and you can see he's been slowly lowering his number of employees that he's been paying each week too. So he's been letting a couple people go. If you click into one of these, like so this last week, it'll tell you, so this is one of his BCs, and it was a vehicle under 10,000 pounds. So this is a adjusted gross pay that was completely finalized. Everything's done. You can go in and undo the finalization. So you could undo this and fix something if something was, gone awry in here. But when you get in here, you can see everything that has been put in here for this particular contractor, the days they worked, their hours that come from the timekeeper. And, even if you put in some deductions, so I know this contractor is paying, doing some matching for health insurance and some other things, child support would be deducted, things of that nature, okay? This is what it looks like when you're done. And you can export it as a CSV, and it will all come out, and it's easily used for any of your payroll processors. Okay, we use a couple of different payroll processors to run payroll for our customers. This particular contractor, I believe we use Gusto for him. But when you get in here and you get into the main dashboard, your first thing you're going to want to do after you've got your employees and your vehicles all set up, you're going to want to click Calculate Gross Pay. Okay. And this is what's going to come up. So you're going to get out of his, because I don't want to mess with his stuff. We'll mess with his stuff instead. So you're going to want to click Calculate Gross Pay. And you want to make sure that you're in 2024, which it should default to that. And we're in April. And you want to choose the week that you're going to want to pay. So this particular week, if you're following the FedEx work pay schedule, which we recommend you do, you would have been paying for this particular week ending date, okay? So most payroll processors by now would want them to be ran, unless you have the next day processing, which we do in some cases, but you would want to go ahead and choose that week ending, and you can, if you have a stop threshold pay, you can click this, toggle this over to yes, and you can put in that stop threshold. So if you say, I want, after 100 stops, if they go over 100 stops in a day, they get $1 for every stop they go over, okay? So we are going to put that in there just so you can see what it looks like. We're going to click Calculate. And what it's doing is it's pulling in all of your timekeeping records. It's pulling in everything from the WSW. It's pulling in everything that we have, and it's also attaching that stop threshold pay. As you notice, this vehicle L10, we're going to see if he's got anybody. I don't think he has any trucks that are under L10. Oh, he doesn't. Okay. If you know that person got into a vehicle under 10,000 pounds, you can check this box, and what it's going to do is it's going to start calculating. See how it calculates the overtime pay now? That's because that particular driver went into an L10. But if we unclick it, the overtime pay goes away. So what it does is it calculates the correct overtime pay for that L10 person. Let's see. So we've got, you know, some hourly pay. I know this particular contractor has some people that are hourly, a couple a day. It kind of just depends. There's also a little bell icon up here that will tell you there are employees whose pay rates are not compliant with federal minimum wage. Okay, so it will tell you that there's, you know, any type of warnings. What are some warnings that might come up in here? You might have warnings in here that your truck's gross vehicle weight is not put in the system. The minimum wage it's not compliant with the federal minimum wage. I'm trying to think of some other things that pop up in here. An employee is on your WSW but not in the system to get paid. Things of that nature. All the types of things that would pop up when you're going to do this are going to come up under that bell icon, and you're going to be able to click on it and get the warnings. Okay. I'm going to guess this is because some of these drivers, like for this one, $17 a day. I don't think that's probably right. I think he probably meant $17 an hour, but we'll go with it. So as you can see, as we go down through here, it's going to pull in their rate. It's going to pull in their hours worked and their days worked. So even if you have some people that are day pay and some that are hourly, it's going to calculate based off of what you put in here. Okay. Yeah, he meant to say an hour. Okay, so here's one that's day pay. It's going to say $171 a day times 500. Here's the amount. These are the hourly ones. Up here, as you can see, it's going to say $21.77 an hour. Here's their hourly pay based off of their timekeeping. So it depends on what pay rate you're giving them, whether it uses the hours worked or the days worked, but it will do that for you, okay? Let's go back up here. So we've got Shannon, the hourly, so this is what they're getting paid. We are applying a stop threshold pay. Now at this point, if you've got some people that don't get the stop threshold pay, you put it on everybody for this particular week, but some people don't get it for whatever reason. You can uncheck it, okay? So for instance, say Shane down here, he did go over a stop threshold. And the way you know that is it says stop threshold pay, and there's a number here. If you click on it, it's going to show you their WSW information, and it's going to show you their daily stops, their total daily stops, what the stop threshold was, how many stops they went over, and how much you're paying them for each day. Okay? So it is this is that stop threshold you put in, and it's going to show you which days he went over, and it's going to show you the totals. Now, if we were to uncheck this, it's going to take that away. Okay? So if you've got some people, you know, there's all different, like I said before, there's all different ways of paying people. If you have a stop threshold pay for only a couple people, you can check in and check that box. It's up to you. But in this case, we did, let's click this little arrow here. You did apply a stop threshold pay to everybody. And that's really beneficial if you have it for everybody, but you want to change it around a little bit for some people as opposed to others. You can do that. So like say his stop threshold pay is less than everybody else's. Let's say it's actually 50 cents. Okay, you can do that, click enter, and it's going to lower that down. Okay, and if we click it again, it's going to show you how that changed and how much you're paying them. But as you can see, everybody else stayed the same, right? So it can be adjusted per driver as you're going through here. Let's move him back to $1. There you go. We do have options in here for bonus pay. You see these are underlined. You can click on them and it will tell you what's going on with it. So bonus pay is an unexpected amount given to the employees. So like a couple of options here are holiday bonus, safety bonus, manager BC bonus, etc. is what you would put in bonus pay. Other pay would include like PTO, vacations, sick days, holidays, and then obviously deductions and reimbursement. So if you had to pay them back for, say, they bought gas on their own card, this is where you would put that reimbursement. And deductions, that would be things like insurance, child support, what have you. And then there's also a notes section. So this is really great for being able to enter a note that says, you know, anything that is to do with their payroll. So we all know that when you're running payroll for people, for particular drivers. Some have situations that you need to make a note of, and it stays with that driver throughout every time you go to run a payroll. So if you put in here $50 a week for child support, you can put that in here and it will stay with that driver every single time, so you know what it is that amount is for. And you can put that in here and it'll go from week to week. Okay. So as you go through here, you make sure that everybody looks right. This is a great way to, especially like I say, you have a BC or an admin person that's doing this. They look at the schedule, they make sure that everybody is correct. Let's say this particular driver, find that day person. Okay, so this one, it says 5 days, but we actually sent that driver home. You can set this to 4 and click enter and it will change. So just because these numbers are set in here for you does not mean you can't change them, okay? And same with the hours. These hours worked are going to come from the timekeeper, the P&D driver app. If your drivers are not using the timekeeper and you do have hourly employees, you'll have to enter these in. But they're very easy to enter in. It's in order here, and you just go down through and enter them in. And then you can do 2 things. So you go down through here, you check to make sure everybody's in, everybody's got their stuff in. We can put a couple of some deductions in here. And as you see, as you start going, you start seeing these totals, okay? So you've got your stop threshold pay, and again, like Ken and I were just talking about before, this is really a great way of showing you is that how much am I spending in that stop threshold pay? You know, like we go in and we pay the guys for these stop threshold pays or for these bonuses, and we may not see that total number in a lot of instances, okay? So being able to really see that total number and how much you are spending that stop threshold pay, is that paying for itself? I mean, you only get paid so much per stop and per package. Is $1 too much? Is it too little? Do you need to maybe reduce that? And this is a great way of analyzing that and figuring out how much you're spending on that stop threshold pay and that bonus money, okay? And then you can also see how much you're spending in overtime. So if you're trying to reduce the overtime pay, you can start looking at that. And then this is their total gross pay. So this is the gross pay calculator. It does not take out for things like taxes and things like that. What you would do with this is you would either click save for later. So this is an option if you're just putting this together and you're not ready to put it you're not ready to be done with it yet, okay? You would click save for later. It says, are you sure you would like to save? You click yes. It's gonna let you know that it's saving the data. And here we go. So it's going to say success. It's been saved. Now, if you want to go back and finalize it, or you want to make an edit before you finalize it, you want to go to gross pay history, and you're going to see, and for this particular week, month here, you've got going on 2 months, you've got this old one that he had, and you've got this one. As you can see, this is the one that we have not finalized because it does not have a check mark and it's got the week ending date of 4/12. Again, it shows you all the totals. If you want to finalize this or edit it, you just click on it and it's going to pull it right back up for you. So anytime you have to back away from this for a little bit and go do something else, you just keep clicking save for later until you're ready to finalize it, okay? When we're ready to finalize, we're going to click finalize, and it's going to ask, double check, are you sure you want to, finalize this gross pay? We're going to click finalize. It's going to save everything. This is also one of those moments that if you made any changes, it's going to save those for you here as well. And as soon as you're done, it's going to ask you if you'd like to download the CSV. We put this here because a lot of people will use this then to go put it into their payroll processor. So whether it's Paychex, ADP, Gusto, what are some of the other ones? QuickBooks, I think, has a payroll thing. Whatever it is, you can click yes, and it's going to download it, okay? So this is what this will look like. Open this up so you can see it. Okay. So this is what the Excel file looks like. So it's going to give you the hours worked, days worked, everything that you saw before, okay? And it's going to give you all these numbers and all the totals. And this is just to make sure, something that we do when we run our payroll through our processor is to put all this information into our processor and then just double check those ending numbers so we're not missing any, commas or adding any extra zeros, what have you, okay? And let's see what else. Also, when you get back in here, this is now going to say finalized. Okay, and the reason, so this is going to say finalized, and what you're going to do is you're going to go back to the dashboard and you're going to click the refresh button. And when you do that, especially if it's after Wednesday, on or after Wednesday, it's going to give you all your charts again. It would be great if this payroll was actually that low, but I highly doubt it is. It's going to give you all these charts, and the reason it's going to be able to do that Wednesday or after is because we have your settlement in here. Okay, so this uses the gross pay information and your settlement, and it compares the two. Okay, any questions, comments, concerns, questions as to how this would translate into your operation? I know that not every operation pays the same. So if you have a question about how to use the gross pay calculator for your operation, please go ahead and put it in the chat or, unmute and ask, because if it's not in here, we'd love to put it in here. Okay. Any questions, or Ken or anybody have anything to add to this?
No, I think you hit it all. I said it.
Okay.
Hopefully this tool's there to save you time, and more so to show you what the biggest cost in your operation, labor, is costing you as a percentage of revenue, as a per stop basis, and what your gross pay and what the gross pay per dispatch is. These are all important numbers. We know that rising costs are out there, and this is the one that you can definitely control. So you want to be able to know what it is, and then you want to be able to take steps to control it, and then you want to see your results. So we think it's a very, very powerful tool in the system.
Yeah. And it does. We have had a lot of people that have gone to use this, and it takes their payroll processing down to 45 minutes to half an hour. It's actually having to, you don't have to take all these charts and all these different things and all these, Excel files and all this and create your payroll, take all your timekeeping and all the days and put them all together. This does it all for you. It's pulling everything into one place, and all you have to do is put it into that payroll processor and you're good to go. Okay. It's a very quiet group today. Well, if you all do not have any questions at all, that is totally okay. Again, just to let you know, next week we're going to go over this in the scheduler again, just to kind of recap anything we missed from the last couple of weeks. And then we're going to start going over some more information, utilizing those calculators. Revenue and expenses tool, great tool, especially this time of the year after you've done things like your taxes and stuff like that, to get those P&Ls going, to see, Ken's, Tuesday you all told us that rising costs, like he was saying, are rampant, and one of your guys' biggest concerns. Using this revenue and expenses tool is a great way to find out where those holes are in that bucket, so we can plug them. So utilizing that and being able to see where that money's going, how you can adjust it, is a great tool to use. And then also, like we talked about before, managing those timekeeping records it is not a joke. One, having a timekeeping system, and two, actually making sure that it is accurate, are two of the most important things about having timekeeping. Okay, so we'll be going over all of that. Here's my contact info. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, would like to have like a small demo on how to use this with your guys' information for your company, please reach out and let me know. I would love to go through this with you and make sure that you're getting to use it to run your payroll. If I don't talk to you guys before the end of the week, have a great and awesome weekend.